Alrighty then, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Why You Should Love with me, TheLonesomeRavidor, and today we're doing a Why You Should Love on Resident Evil Revelations. This should be a good one. So to start off with Resident Evil Revelations, the best point I personally think, out of my 5 points I'm going to probably state today, I definitely agree this is the one game in which out of the recent games altogether, since probably 4 onwards, ignoring Umbrella Chronicles, Darkside Chronicles, all them, like of the main series I guess, including obviously Code Veronica and Zero I guess, they would count as the main series, well they really are. Anyway, including all them, since the time of Resident Evil 4, this was probably the first Resident Evil in which they made, which was really like what the fans wanted. It had the horror aspect, it had the classic kind of Resident Evil aspect, had the terrifying aspect, it had the Resident Evil 4 run out of ammo situations happening, had the action in it at the same time, but it was a decent game. It was very well done and had a lot of Resident Evil aspects to it. So personally, I think a good point to really love this game is the fact that if you did like the other Resident Evils and you like the classic Resident Evils, this is a good return to the classic feel of the Resident Evil games in general. Anyhow, let's move on to my second point. This is a good bridge game. When it came down to Resident Evil 5's release, a lot of people wondered what happened to Chris and Jill before then. So they released the Rise of Nightmares DLC. The Rise of Nightmares DLC for Resident Evil 5 was DLC which showed what happened to Chris and Jill before that, showing to Jill's disappearance and Chris's anger increasing, I suppose, and trying to find out where she's gone. And so people did still wonder what happened to them before that. So they thought Revelations was a good tie-in game, like I guess from, you could view it as Code Veronica to 5, I suppose. But it's a bit of a big gap, that is. Maybe a bit of a big gap, but still it's a good way to look at it because of the fact that that is probably the time period in which Chris was last involved to being involved in Resident Evil 5. So this was the game basically set before Resident Evil 5's DLC of Rise of Nightmares. The good reason to love this game is because of the fact that the way it really does tie in with the rest of the games very, very well. It is involved with the rest of the it is very involved with the rest of the games and relies on what you know about the rest of the games as well. So it doesn't all of a sudden just go off somewhere else and say something different, or like it will involve different characters. Although it involves new characters, it doesn't simply like non-existently think about any of the other ones. It does then tie on to the future ones and the past ones as well. So it's a good bridge game in general altogether. So let's move on to my third point. This game, in a sense, like looking back at the other Resident Evils and even the ones in the future, like from all of them, to be fair, like your Darkside Chronicles 1 through till 6, 0, Code Veronica, Dead Aim. This game did throw in a new couple of aspects for the game. It did include, like, there was the scanner, which helped you find items and different kind of like weaknesses of the zombies, helped you gain experience, and it also included the different kind of gameplay aspect also to the time scenario in the game. It had this unusual thing of where it often went backwards and forwards in time, in which you played different kind of scenarios and different points, in which it has done before partially. I guess in 6 it kind of counts that, because you got like 4 different storylines altogether, which is fair enough, I suppose. But this one really kind of ties in because it's a very linear game, obviously, as Resident Evil games are. And basically, as you go through the game, you're sent through different storylines. And it's very easy to keep track of all the storylines, very easy to understand what's going on. And it's not a bad thing altogether. It's a very good gameplay aspect as well. That's a good reason to love the game, it sure is. Anyway, let's move on to my fourth point. The game introduces a new location which you play on a big marine boat. This kind of aspect hasn't really been introduced since Dead Aim, which a lot of people don't really count as a game, to be fair. It was a very like arcadey kind of game, and a lot of people don't really count it as one of the Resident Evil main series. Although the aspect of that game is a very, 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 if you've never played Dead Aim, it is very similar to Resident Evil Revelations and what it has behind it, as in the whole storyline, and well, maybe not storyline wise, but definitely location wise, and just the unusualness about it. It's generally not bad of a game, I have to admit. But anyway, the game itself is, the new location is a very good aspect to it. It's very creepy, very like contained. You have no excuse to be able to, in a lot of games these days, you often find yourself in situations in which you think, oh, if I was there, I'd do this to get the situation, I'd do that to get the situation. Being contained on this boat gives you none of them options, due to the fact that obviously you'd think, oh, you'd get out of there, you'd leave the place, but you can't, because of the fact that you're actually on a boat, and you can't leave, so, obviously without drowning, so, yeah, so it does give you a good containment, a good horror feel, and it really returns yourself back to the whole, what really was Resident Evil in a sense. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to my fifth and final point. As ever, guys, you must have expected this, but I struggled for the fifth point, I have to admit, because Resident Evil games, as comes along, a lot of them do kind of merge together, and a lot of them share the same kind of qualities, and there's often cons too. But obviously, as ever it comes down to it, I always have to mention this, but they have fantastic voice actors in this game, as per ever. Obviously, my main adoring pet, well, to be fair, fantastic voice actors, fantastic voice actor. I love the fact Roger Craig Smith in this game, as per ever, re-involving himself as the character of Chris Redfield as fantastic, and as a good reason to love it, because if you enjoy that voice actor, then you know he doesn't disappoint in this game. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I'm TheLonesomeRavidor. Once again, you guys are beautiful as per ever, and I will see you in the next episode of Why You Should Love. By the way, guys, next week we will be... Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I'm TheLonesomeRavidor. Once again, you guys are beautiful as per ever. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Why You Should Love on the beautiful Resident Evil Revelations. And I hope to see you guys next week for another episode. Thank you very much for watching once again. I'm TheLonesomeRavidor. Once again, you guys are beautiful as per ever, and I'll see you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye. Watch out!